Hello, everybody. Cindy Greenway here, editor-in-chief at lawmarketing.com. And today we're talking about how to organize your day to make sure that it's most effective for you. I'm very pleased to be here with Bill Jawitz, the founder of SuccessTrackESQ, an executive coaching and consulting firm that exclusively works with attorneys, their firms, and in-house legal departments. And they specialize in improving their productivity and profitability. So, Bill, thank you. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Cindy.
All
Thanks
right.
for asking. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, Bill, I've read a few of your blog posts and read some information that you've shared, and I know time management is an area that you really specialize in. So I know time management is something that we quite often forget about because our days are so busy, and I'd love for you to share a little bit or a tip that attorneys can implement that will really help them in making the best use of their time.
Great. It's quite a challenge for
Mm-hmm.
sure, and it's increasingly a challenge for a variety of reasons. Time management, improved productivity, always on technology, more demanding clients. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not getting easier, that's for sure.
Right.
And one of the fundamental exercises or behavior shifts that we see makes a huge difference is starting your day with effective planning.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have something called the 8 essential steps of increased productivity, and this is the first one. Actually, we have a checklist of about 9 steps for what it looks like to take the first 15 to 20 minutes of each morning for do not disturb time to plan out your day. And some of the sub steps in that are actually identifying what I call the white space in your calendar for that day. What's currently open that you have not committed to having to be somewhere or on the phone on a
Mm-hmm.
conference call as of that morning? It might be 2 hours a day for a litigator. You might have very little for a transactional attorney or a trust and estates attorney. You might have big chunks of white space. Well, in reality, what tends to go in the white space when you look back at the end of your day? It's whatever kind of flows into your mind or whatever screams the loudest.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way to begin pushing back against that tidal wave is to take some uninterrupted time and look at your white space, review your to-do list, and that's a whole other section that we could maybe talk about, what an effective to-do list is, how you capture easily but reliably stuff so that it's not only in your head,
Mm-hmm.
that you're worrying about the proverbial midnight wake up, oh, did I file that? So reviewing a useful, reliable to-do list, prioritizing 2 or 3 items, realistically assessing how long you want to spend on each of those items. And so rather than saying, oh, the Smith motion, well, it could be that you just have 15 minutes left on that,
Mm-hmm.
wrapping it up. It could be that you haven't started it yet, and that there's document assembly and a whole bunch of additional research that you've got to delegate to an associate before you work on the Smith motion. So if you have 2 hours of white space and that's one of your priorities, maybe you say, I'm going to push into it for 30 minutes. And here's the chunk of what that looks like. So it's realistically assessing how much time, and then it's calendaring in that as an appointment for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
this is where people tend to have greater resistance. Like, is this really important enough for me to lock in time?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer is yes. There are refinements of this basic daily planning process because some gung-ho folks tend to hyper schedule everything back to back to back to back and say, oh, this
Mm-hmm.
is great. And then that's not sustainable, right? So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of art, there's a little bit of science, but that's the gist of it. And when lawyers take the time on an everyday basis to, without interruption, focus just on that instead of automatically starting to answer emails or automatically pick up the document that may even have been left open in Word on their desktop to
Mm-hmm.
start writing, they actually get much more done and they're more likely to grab what I and others call the important but not urgent tasks, right? The things that no judge is screaming on a deadline for, but which you never get to because while they could change the game for you productivity wise, you just don't get to because they're not urgent. And so that morning planning, and then there's a whole lot more to time management, delegation, supervising, what that means to do that effectively, organizing and optimizing your space, setting expectations, dealing with boundaries, learning how to
Right. And
say.
those are some
No.
things that I'd love to talk to you some more about because I really
Yes.
see the value and how it will help an attorney. But I think that the top question that comes to my mind, and I think some of our viewers will think of as well, is that, they've tried this. They've tried to, walk into the office or turn on the computer like 20 minutes early before their day really starts and so on. But they see that email that's screaming at them, or they see a phone message that's screaming at them, or
Yeah.
the assistant throws something at them. So it's sometimes hard to keep that habit going of scheduling those 15 to 20 minutes ahead of time. So anything that you can suggest that will just maybe really help an attorney in making sure that
Well,
happens.
yeah, and the checklist, which I can put on the site and
Mm-hmm.
people can just download. So I'll link
Perfect.
directly to that one checklist.
Okay.
Having a tool which represents best practice and that actually works. And I have clients who tape it to their monitor or
Mm-hmm.
leave it on one of those stands, a paper
Yeah.
stand to remind them to do it. So one is having a more confidence that you've got a routine that will work, and that
Good.
checklist will provide that. So because
Great.
people sort of get it, oh, I should plan in the morning, but they don't have a systematic way to do it, and they don't keep it in front of them.
Right.
And then the other is doing whatever kind of introspection is necessary so that uh, you confront the adage that a lot of us have heard. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing but expecting different results, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is an element of sort of just confronting one's own fears of tackling behavior change and looking realistically and say, boy, what do I stand to gain by doing this with respect to
Right.
getting out of the office earlier, improving the balance of my life, improving the amount of time I have available to bill, or if I'm
Mm-hmm.
in a contingency practice, to actually work files, because I've been more deliberative, more intentional, rather than just having these sort of vague, oh, I wish that I was more organized. I
Right.
wish that I was
And
more
that's what a
productive.
lot of us do, right? Is we have that wish, but the genie's not always there to kind of grant us that wish, right? So
I would say the genie's never there. I take your point, but yeah, it doesn't. It's actually, I haven't acknowledged that time management is a misnomer.
hmm
We can't manage time. We
yeah.
can't make time, find time, create time. Time just goes. Time management really is about self-management.
Very good point. Very good point.
And
So
so it is that combination of use a good tool and then be willing to really look honestly at the outcomes that you want and acknowledge the connection between behavior and outcomes. And I don't mean to sound like a psychologist about it, but that's kind of the truth about it.
that's the truth. All right. Well, Bill, I appreciate you sharing that resource with us. So I'll make sure that we include that link in the post here. And thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it and looking forward to talking to you some more about some of these tips.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. All right,
Bye.
you bet.
You're welcome. Bye bye.